Good afternoon. Hi, and sorry for that delay. We are so glad you are joining us here at C.A.R.E.ing Conversations, brought to you from the Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies in Punta Gorda, Florida. My name is Joy McCray-Fox. I'm a sexual advocate here, and this is Wendy. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Wendy.
Hi everyone, my name's Wendy, and I'm a sexual assault program manager for the Center for Abuse and Rape Emergencies. And thank you so much for having me here on our breakout session.
Yes, breakout session. Just a minor delay, but that's okay, because we are reaching out to you, our citizens here in Charlotte County, to let you know what we do and why, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we do it. We have been in Charlotte County for over 35 years, and of course our mission is to help victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other violent crime in Charlotte County. Even though we've been here for 30 years, people don't know all of the services that we provide. When they think of a rape crisis center, which is how we started, they think of a 24-hour hotline and they think of hospital response. There is absolutely so much more we do, and you as a community can help us. So today we're going to highlight some of our little-known services, and we're going to start with one of the most serious and one of the most rewarding things we can do for individuals who have struggled, and that is serving adult survivors of childhood sexual assault. So I'm going to turn it over to Wendy to talk a little bit about how we do that and why it's important to reach out.
Okay. Well, Joy, as you said, we have our 24-hour helpline. It is answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, within 2 rings by a live advocate. We also have the hospital response and many other services. But adult children, adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse is usually one that very few people in the community know that we do. A lot of adults who suffered sexual abuse as children, they never spoke up. They never came forward. We know that 99% of the time when a child is sexually assaulted, it is by an authority figure, someone they know, usually a father, an uncle, an older brother, a stepfather. We know there were huge stories about clergy and about scout leaders.
Yeah, Epstein.
And so a lot of these children, they didn't come forward because of fear of not being believed, their own shame and guilt and believing somehow they brought this on themselves, and the fact that it is a trusted member that the family knows. And so, you know, and they're threatened a lot of times that, you know, if you tell on me, I'll hurt you worse, or I'll hurt your mom, or I'll hurt your sister, so they don't come forward.
You know, can I interrupt you for a second there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, shame and guilt, let's think about that. Where does that really belong? Not with the victim, but with the perpetrator. So that is one of the things, we want that message out there. Don't be afraid to come forward. Go ahead. On the services, yes.
So later on, as these children grow up and they become adults, they tend to kind of stuff this somewhere in the back of their mind. You know, it's overdone, let's move on with life, he can't hurt me no more. And then something happens that triggers that memory, and it comes out. And these adult children find themselves having a hard time dealing with those memories. They start having nightmares. They start seeing their abuser in different places. And so those people, you know, a lot of people think at that point they don't have any options. And they do, because here at C.A.R.E., all of our services are 100% free and confidential. And whether your abuse happened 5 minutes ago or 50 years ago, we have trained advocates that are more than willing to help. And we have a huge array of services that we can offer to individuals, and as well, you know, so that we want to help that person to overcome that feeling of powerlessness from those memories and those triggers, and help to re-empower that individual. And that's what brings joy to my life, is watching an individual regain their personal power and start to move forward.
Wendy, that is great. And I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say it's rare that we have people walk in and say, I'm here to deal with the fact that I was abused as a child. That is usually not the motivator. It's these feelings, these
right.
emotions, these new nightmares maybe, right?
Right, and a lot of times, like when the Epstein story broke, and when the story about the clergy came out in Pennsylvania.
And the athlete A something, was it? Yes, okay, yeah, go ahead.
And so when those things happen, we do see an uptick in calls, people that'll call the helpline, or even people that have walked in and I need to speak to someone. And that's exactly what we're here for. Because those are triggering moments. Those women, or even men, boys, they tend to see those stories, and it invokes their empathy for those survivors, but it also invokes their own trauma memories and those triggers, and they find that they have a hard time getting past it again.
Trauma is the word. Actually, I don't know if we talked about, we are a dual service center, so we serve victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and we do it in a trauma-informed care way. That might be a phrase that some of you are familiar with, but trauma-informed care is starting where the person is. It's almost that simple, you know. I mean, there's more involved to it. Involved by understanding that these things do affect your life and how you move forward. So even if it was 30 years ago, if it's hurting you now, you can come to us and we can still help. Don't be afraid to call.
Exactly.
Okay. And we run on volunteers. I'm going to jump to volunteers because that is something that we have trained advocates to do. And we have certified advocates who've gone through training by the state coalitions. And if you're a volunteer interested in helping, we're not going to put you with an adult survivor of childhood sexual assault and say, go for it. No, it doesn't work that way. You know, but we do try to match what your skills and abilities are. And we do need your help on the hotline, at hospital response, with clerical tasks, outreach in the community. Advent of COVID right now, we're not doing a lot of outreach, so we're glad you're joining us here on Facebook. And we're going to be here every Thursday at 4. Most importantly, we want to know what you need to know. What would help you understand, what would help you heal. We have some ideas for topics, how to help a friend, you know, why it's important to start by believing. Several topics we want to bring you, but most importantly, we want to hear from you. Send a comment in, give us a call, and we can structure the series so it meets your needs. Just like we do when we meet with clients. We start with survivor-focused advocacy. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Well, let's start with the very beginning. Okay. Usually someone comes to us either by making a call to our 24-hour helpline. As you can see, the number is there in front of us. And our advocates, you know, gather a little bit of information. They do some crisis intervention on the phone. They also do some, you know, information and referrals if there's referrals that need to be made. And they'll make an appointment for a victim to come in and speak one-on-one with an advocate. Or they'll report to the hospital emergency room as a victim. And so our advocates, when a victim goes into the emergency room, all of our local hospitals here in Charlotte County will call C.A.R.E., and we will send out an advocate within 30 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We will respond within 30 minutes. And the whole point of the advocate going into the emergency room is at that point in time, that victim is so traumatized, you know, they're not thinking straight. They don't know for sure what they need. And so our advocates are there to just inform them of what their rights are, what they can expect, how our advocate can assist with anything that they may need going forward, and then to make sure that law enforcement and hospital personnel are respecting the rights of that victim. If that victim does not want to report to law enforcement, there is nothing that says they have to. And law enforcement needs to understand that. And, you know, sometimes When they don't report, they still collect evidence, and that evidence is kept for 90 days in Charlotte County in order to give a victim a chance to kind of sort through what they're going through and then make a determination whether they want to file legal charges or not. So, and then when,
Thanks, Wendy.
when victims go into the hospital and they collect evidence, they take your clothes because your clothes are evidence. And it used to be that victims were then given some flip-flops and paper scrubs, and that's how they left the hospital. Well, C.A.R.E. worked very hard with our sexual assault response team, and we developed what was called our hospital response bag. And I pulled one out that's for a man. Yes, we work with men and women. We have no gender bias here. All individuals can be victims. And inside these, we have quilts. Like this is a very nice quilt that's made by wonderful volunteers in our community.
Another way to volunteer.
Every
Yes.
one of our hospital response bag has that. And they're not, you know, the most expensive stuff, but there's some sweatpants, a t-shirt, some flip-flops, and personal hygiene products to give that victim a chance to get cleaned up and be able to walk out of the hospital with their head held high and not in paper scrubs looking like a victim.
Right. And that's a crisis response that we do often, too often.
So, and Joy, you mentioned COVID, and you know, COVID has slowed us down a little bit. We aren't able to go out into the public and bring about the outreach and awareness that we're used to doing. So we've had to learn to think outside the box, hence the Facebook Live.
Yes.
However, our advocates are still on site and ready to respond to any victim, anytime. We have our hospital response advocates ready to go into the hospitals. We have advocates ready to go to the police station with a victim, to the courthouse with a victim, to a doctor's appointment with a victim if necessary. We have our admin office in Punta Gorda. We have a satellite office on San Casa in Inglewood, and we also have an office at Port Charlotte Town Center. Inside the sheriff's office, our advocate is there to be able to work with survivors. So we really do want to meet survivors where they are, and we want to make it extremely easy for them to access services. We've developed a chat feature on our web site. It's carefl.org. You can click on the chat. It does not use cookies, and there's an escape button, so if your abuser walks in, you can click on X. It's gone. There's no history, so it's safe. We also have a text feature, since sometimes it's easier to text than to speak to someone. So we really want to do everything we can to provide any victim with anything they need, but most of all, safety and confidentiality.
And do know, everything is free, everything is confidential, and everything is at your direction. So if your goal is to get over some of those traumatic responses, we can help talk about that. We can help work you through that. Our bigger mission is to do the anti-violence work, so we're not doing this work, to work ourselves out of a job. And we do need Charlotte County to join us. We are very lucky to have supportive partners, the sheriff's office, the hospitals, many, many supporters. And we want to hear what you think you could do to help us in our mission to help victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other violent crimes here in our community. Sexual assault does happen in Charlotte County. Domestic violence does happen in Charlotte County. And we really need your help to make the changes necessary. We'll be talking about other things going forward in this series, including the Me Too movement, the Start by Believing campaign, and one of our topics we're going to delve into is why it's so important to start by believing. We've tried to give you an overview here. We thank you again for joining us. We want you to come to our Facebook page. We want you to go to the website. We want you to give us a call, answered by a live person, by the way. And we hope you will give us some feedback to see if this has been helpful.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
And we're going to have some invited guests going forward, but we need to hear from you because we definitely want to make sure that this is an outreach that has an effect on your life. We know that we change lives. Please help us.
Please remember to like and share both on Facebook and Instagram, and know that we care.
Thank you.